We're kicking off on a fly. Seve, we were just chatting before the episode here, and I mentioned that Llama 4 was just announced, and you went, oh.
Well, nobody really knows what's going on with Llama 4.
But what did you actually say? You said...
Nobody's been able to replicate the benchmarks.
Before that, how did you respond? Llama 4's just been announced.
I don't remember. What did I say?
You went, oh, that was a flop.
Oh, yeah, that was a big flop. Yeah, it was such a flop that some of the people from Meta are writing on their LinkedIn profiles, was instrumental in Llama 3, had nothing to do with Llama 4.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, they're actually calling it out. So if we look at the ADER benchmark, you can see on the polyglot coding leaderboard, it's at 15.6. That is far behind what they claimed and just all other models.
What did they claim?
Let's see if we can find this post.
They claimed, they were making bold claims about that. And I was excited as well because the smallest one, was that the Maverick, the tiny one?
The middle one is the Maverick, and then they have the Scout. Yeah. So it looks like an interesting release, just face value. It's multimodal. They have a bunch of claims about how...
Scout can run on a single GPU, which is super cool if that is true at all.
So one of the problems with reproducing it is, especially with the Behemoth, it's just so big, there's not an ergonomic way to run it. I think even the Maverick might be too big, 400 billion total parameters. Wow. So it's like, it's a bit hard to read.
It's the kind of thing that you need a provider to be running properly. You can't just be running it on your Mac Mini stack at home.
Even for providers, it's pretty,
It's daunting. So how big are Meta's data centers? Do they have much AI inference that they sell? Because I've never really heard much about it.
Like that they sell?
Yeah, does Meta sell inference?
No.
I mean, Meta has their own significant data centers, right?
Yeah.
But they don't sell any AI anything?
They don't sell any AI anything. They have Meta AI built into Messenger. They're doing like image generation and emojis. They use it internally.
There's no API? Because the reason I bring it up is because the big players here, like Microsoft, Google, and Meta, and Amazon, of course, are all benefiting out of this race, no matter what happens. Because even if they make an investment in a company, for argument's sake, and that company comes back with that investment and spends it right on Amazon servers, it costs them a fraction of what the money, quote unquote, the value they gave out. They end up in everything and entangled charging high prices forever, which is great. That's a great business strategy. So good on them. But for Meta, where they do have their own data centers, they have a model that's hard to run and an ostensibly a high quality model that's hard to run.
Yeah.
And they're giving it out open source because they believe in this open source future. Why? I would love to pay them to use it.
Right.
Why would I not be able to? That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, at the
Zuck,
same time,
if you're listening, I know you're a big fan of electronics dev, so please consider it.
The thing is I don't think anybody really would pay them right now because it's not as good as advertised and it's not very good relatively.
Okay. It's not as good as advertised. Is it because, how could that be? Is it the benchmark was synthesized poorly?
So nobody is really sure. Nobody is sure. It's really confusing because we have their results against Sonnet here, and they're claiming to be better than Sonnet, right? In a lot of categories, and better than 2.0 Pro. But then you look at the ADER benchmark, and they're just all the way at the bottom. Yeah, they might be the worst. It's
the worst modern.
Yeah, and that's not their tiny model. There are small models.
Yeah, that's the mid-size.
Yeah, that's 400 billion parameters. If you look at there's small models that are beating them. So the Llama 4 thing was just confusing.
Yeah, wow. Do you think it was because Gemini 2.5 Pro came out just after? So do you think that they made this announcement prematurely because Gemini 2.4 Pro came out and was so good that they just couldn't be left behind with relatively old open source models?
My bet is that the model is actually good and nobody can reproduce it. I just can't think that people in Meta would, they have so little to gain from it too, because they don't have a product on the market that does this. I'm there must be something wrong with how they open source their results where nobody can replicate it. Maybe there's a stage missing. People have said that it could be a quantization issue, which is where you make the weights easier to run on different graphics cards or something like that.
Yeah.
So I want to say that we're going to get an announcement like Llama 4.1, and it's just going to kind of fix the things, and we'll actually start to see the results they're talking about.
Is it maybe plausible as well that, because sorry, which is it's PyTorch that's Facebook's, right? Well, sorry, that's Meta's.
That's a good question.
I believe it's PyTorch that Meta created as their AI infrastructure. And so, it's happened before, and it'll definitely happen again, where companies upstream all kinds of random optimizations they have for their hardware infrastructure.
Right.
Like Google fairly famously had some code in there, or like an extra token or something really funny that just caused the GPU to continue crunching random numbers. Because otherwise the power drop, right, from all the inductance in your transformers in your line, the quick power drop would snap the voltages up and knock the whole system out. So they just burn the clock cycles, right?
Yeah,
and they accidentally, but it doesn't really matter, upstreamed this to TensorFlow, right? And similar things have happened with PyTorch.
Oh, interesting.
And so I wonder if it's not actually the models being bad as much as PyTorch that everyone else has access to is not as good as the internal version that Meta's yet to release.
Yeah, you're right. PyTorch was developed by Facebook.
Wow, okay. So big flop for the moment.
Big flop for the moment. Hopefully something changes there. I think the more recent kind of interesting thing is OpenAI releases 4.1. Yeah. So a brand new model. You've been using it.
No, I haven't used it.
Oh, you haven't used it.
Have you?
I have not.
It's announced as not accessible yet.
So it is accessible, but only via API. You can't use it online, which means I probably won't be giving it too much of a try because it scores well, but not top.
Enough to jump.
Yeah. And for me, there's like okay. So there's a chance that I use it. I think it makes a lot of sense for people who want a 1 million context window and aren't doing like the hardest things in the world. Also, if they want a GPT that's going to follow instructions, because historically 4.0 is like the best at tool calling and stuff like that. It's really good at instruction following. So for a lot of agents,
Gemini, for example.
Yeah. It's gonna like and Sonnet. Just 4.0 is really consistent about using those agent tools and stuff like that.
That's good, yeah.
And I feel that way about OpenAI, where it's kind of like that old adage, like nobody ever got fired for betting on IBM. I feel that way about OpenAI, where they're going to have a competitive model eventually, even if they don't have it now. And it might not be the very, very best at doing those edge cases or those hard tasks, but it's going to be pretty good, and it's going to be very pragmatic in your code base. One of the things I love about 4.1 is they've broken it into 3 models. So you have 4.1, you have 4.1 mini, and you have 4.1 nano. So if you are working on tasks that are easier, you can switch to one of those very fast, very cheap models.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I like the downscaling of the model size. Like there's a much more of a spectrum now where there's these enormous 600, 700 billion parameter with a mixture of, whatever it was, 256 experts or something crazy in there. And then you got all the way down to a bit of a flop at the moment, but I think it was 12 billion was the Llama Scout, the tiny one, designed to fit on a single GPU, which, circling back to that actually, is so exciting. Is if you could get single GPU, so say it actually did what they claim it can. Single GPU, LLM or AI model performance, what are you putting it in, mate? Where are you sticking that GPU?
Yeah, I mean, you could have them. I have a bunch of things related to this. By the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of having like, every office kind of has the same way every office has a Wi-Fi router, but you have like a little AI in your office or something like that.
Like having a NAS.
Yeah. It's like it should be just like a standard thing, because any model, if you run it all night, is going to eat up costs, and it's never going to be as cheap as electricity. And sometimes you just want to run something overnight. You want to try 1,000 variations of something. You just want to throw crap at the wall all night.
People don't seem to realize how expensive external or cloud compute is. It's about 10 times the cost of having a server in-house, including the IT. Right? It's expensive. And so, sure, it's a bit of a quote unquote distraction, but if compute costs are really meaningful, substantial for you, and they're not going away anytime soon, because the other risk, of course, is that they fluctuate.
Right.
Then the investment, and particularly when it's only down to a single GPU, totally makes sense.
So I have a bunch of very interesting things related to this. So I think the one that stands out is, have you ever heard of this company, Tiny Corp?
Yep, I know Tiny Corp.
So
That's from What was their founder's name? Remind me.
Oh my gosh. He's a really
He's
big
so
deal.
famous. He started Comma AI, which does the self-driving add-on for cars, and he cracked the initial, was it like the iPhone 8 or something back in the day? He was the first one to break into it when he was 16. It was probably earlier than that, but super cool company. And
George Hotz, that's it. Yeah, he also live streams sometimes, which is very cool.
That's fun. Yeah.
But he's like one of those OG hackers and just like doing a bunch of things that are really, really hard. It's almost like he seems to be one of those people who's just attracted to very, very hard things.
Yep.
Like Comma AI, which you mentioned, that's a self-driving car company and still a pretty big deal. I think he's not involved anymore, but they're kind of like outfit your car to be self-driving.
Yep.
And they made a lot of progress, and they're probably going to sell into all these, all the people who are not Tesla who want self-driving capabilities.
All the people who aren't doing the best job with their self-driving.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So what's up with Tiny Corp and the local inference?
So Tiny Corp released this statement: with the current state of the world, it doesn't make sense to continue in the box business. So what Tiny Corp does is they sell you a giant box that you put in your office and runs AI for you. So they're basically selling what we're talking about. And they're saying with these tariffs, the GPU supplier doesn't want to honor the price that was agreed on. And so there's all this fluctuation, and they're like, you know what? This sucks. We're going to make a chip. So again, George Hotz just being attracted to the most controversially difficult problems.
The gnarliest of problems.
And they're going for it.
Did I read this correctly as well? So has been in the business of making chips. Let's see. But once we need to be ready. Supply chain. Here we go. We'll sell the chips in a network attached appliance free from any US supply chain. So George Hotz is American too. And this is the other outcome of these tariffs, is he has explicitly said this will be without any US supply chain.
That's right.
He's unwilling to entangle himself in the tumultuous, continuous uproar of it, which kind of sucks.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mr. Beast recently made a statement that it's the tariffs, it's expensive. What was it? It's like related to his COGS.
Yeah, to his coca. So he makes chocolate bars. I remember this post as well. So Mr. Beast bars or something like that, they make chocolate bars and they import all of their like fair trade cacao XYZ from somewhere. And, people have said, oh, why doesn't Ghana, take more of the value chain and start actually manufacturing the chocolate bars themselves? And the answer is they don't have a dairy industry. There's no factory infrastructure there. It's hard to get, meet the food standards, etc., to ship internationally. But you've got the tweet up. Ironically, because of all the new tariffs, it's now way cheaper to make our chocolate bars we sell globally, not in America, because other countries don't have a 20% plus tariff on the inputs, the COGS.
Yeah. So all of those inputs to making chocolate, so they currently make it in the US.
Yeah. Manufactured in the States.
And then all that importing they're doing for those resources is costing them a bunch. So now they have to move the business, or it makes sense to move the business out of America.
Why don't they just grow cacao here?
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's not that easy.
No, it's not. It's obviously not.
Yeah.
And
that's that's kind of our problem. Like bare PCBs, we were talking about that last episode. It's unlikely that bare PCB production is going to move to the US just because of all the all the environmental regulation. Yeah. I don't think anybody is. Okay. So just for context, JLC PCB sells bare PCBs for like $2.
Yeah.
How the F do you compete with that, right?
You don't, is the current answer, right?
That's people argue it's supply subsidized, but that's competition.
Even if it is, right? Even if it's supply subsidized and they're actually $5 a board, still irrelevant. Still maybe 2 orders of magnitude cheaper.
Right.
And it's not even the per board cost, because you might look at that cost and say, oh, well, on volume in the States, you get, bare boards down to $15 for an equivalent thing, or $10. It's only a bit more expensive.
Right.
Well, no, because the thing that all of these Chinese prototype vendors let me do is order 2 or 5.
Right.
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 You can't just do that here. and 2 or 5 and get it back in the case of bare PCBs next day.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah.
That's insane. No one outside of China, it's not even the Western world, it's not even like Japan, South Korea, no one competes with that.
Yeah.
Not even close to competing with that.
Yeah. And so there's all these weird motions that are not where, okay, now we're going to create a factory in the US happening. So for example, US companies were already changing their PCB fabrication from China to Vietnam in some cases to try to...
In Thailand.
In Thailand.
Yep.
But now Chinese conglomerates, they can also do this, right? They can also spin up a shop in Vietnam. So it's like, what mess are we making here? You know,
a big one. I'll tell you that much.
It's very unclear how this is going to play out, I think.
Yeah, it's mucky. It's real mucky. Seve, maybe if we can jump back to something we were talking about earlier, the GPUs embedded in things. I think this is so exciting, and I think it's a place where, we saw Google Coral sort of touch on maybe 5. Do you remember Google Coral?
Google Coral, what is that? I don't remember that.
It was a TPU accelerator device that you would put on a PCIe bus. It's something as small as like a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, that's right. And they were selling this, so anybody could use these. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
You could buy these chips, and they were simple to use. They came with a compute module if you wanted it, and you could, it came with like an IMX8 or something on the side. And I think the embedded GPU is so exciting. Like, even when it's a single like large gaming GPU, which it is today, it just looks ridiculous as fans buzzing. You could think so trivially, you could now embed that thing in your humanoid robot that you and your uni mates do as a project instead of Formula SAE or instead of rocketry, for example.
Yeah.
It's genuinely edge accessible, which is so cool. Like the things that we're going to see in the next decade by getting AI at that edge, and the reason it needs to be at the edge and not just somewhere for cheap is not the cost like we were discussing in the office case, it's the latency.
Yeah.
If you have a robot walking live, right, for argument's sake, and you're running a model that's controlling all of your motor torques, you need to run that at like 1,000 hertz to get a reasonably performant robot out of the mix.
Right.
And I think it's achievable. And I think there's some cool kind of cascade of 1,000 hertz model and 100 hertz model and a 10 hertz model and the 1 hertz cognition. And you might put the 1 hertz cognition up on and make that whatever model is best today, 4.1 or Gemini 2.5 or whatever makes sense.
Yeah.
But getting that right down to the bottom level, I think we're going to see just the coolest things in the next 2 years out of it.
And since we're finding that if you have a really good model and you miniaturize it, you get a really good miniaturized model.
Yeah.
It's like the number of things these small models can do is increasing pretty rapidly. One company I follow is called Moondream, and they have a 2 billion vision model that's better than GPT-4.0 at counting.
Way. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and like a lot of like various classification things, and it can do it in real time. So I got a demo from the founder, and he showed me. He was like, "Tell me what's on the hat." That was his prompt, and then he put on different hats, and it would read the text off. Right?
That's so cool.
So the fact that can be done on device, like, it kind of is reminiscent of like robot, do the laundry or put this here, and it just does it over and over again. Yeah. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
I saw this, which is maybe somewhat related. So this guy's using Raspberry Pi compute modules and constructing these little kind of like clusters. This is the trend. He's calling this trend AI IoT. So AI on the edge in these little things. But I guess the weird thing about it, I think he's building this baseboard so you could put in any stick, CM4 compatible stick.
SODIMM slot.
Yeah. So maybe Raspberry Pi is kind of the company that starts releasing these AI cores, in an easy to use way. Because right now, who are the players? Like NVIDIA with Jetson Nano, and
So I'm just trying to think of the actual electronics aspect of how you interface to these things.
Yeah.
And I think it's typically PCIe, which is currently a pain in the ass to handle and route. Like it's, PCIe 5, it's down to not just differential pair length matching and timing matching and, impedance matching, of course, trying to get the right width of your copper so it propagates properly. But now all of a sudden the geometries are starting to matter. Like if you have a corner in your trace that's a bit too sharp, right? They're running at such high frequencies that it just doesn't propagate well enough around that corner. And not only that, but the test equipment you have to use, right? Like, do you have a 10 gig scope?
No.
Neither do I. It's crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think that the electronics, the EDA tools necessary to actually embed these incredible products, bring their modularity from the physical domain into the digital domain is just going to be, it's going to have to be next level.
One of the things I'm really excited about with atopile and tscircuit electronics and code as code in general is being able to quickly adapt a functional design to different form factors.
Yes.
So you have some dev board and you quickly adapt that to a PCIe form factor or an M2 form factor, whatever, something you could plug into something else.
Yep.
And I think that'll just like be so much better, right? Right now with the routing taking so long and a lot of, space-saving mechanisms with humans taking so long, it's kind of infeasible to do that. And so you don't see like a crazy amount of these reusable sort of module form factors. Have you ever heard of the SparkFun standard? I forget what it's called though.
Quick?
Is it Quick? Yeah, Quick connectors.
There's Quick and Stemmer. Are you talking about the I2C?
I'm talking about the Micromod. That's what I'm talking about. Have you ever seen this?
No, I don't think so.
I really like, so I believe this is the M2 form factor, but they have these little processor modules and you can plug this into dev boards and then you can quickly like change out your processor or something. And there's a spec like, this is where the GPIOs go and all of that for these micromod things. And one of the reasons I love this is because like it's so like cyberpunk, like let's swap out the processor and then you like literally just like swap one of these in.
Yeah.
But also I can see this as like an incredible development mode in some settings where you're trying out new things and instead of reordering the entire PCB, you're just reordering parts. But this hasn't really taken off. Right?
No.
Why isn't this taking off?
I think for a few reasons. I think the main one is that for the people that would likely want to do this, that like kind of hackers, cyberpunky type of thing, it's too expensive. Right, like if you're doing this for personal reasons, like where I see across there, the average price looks to be about $20 for one of these little trinkets as a single piece. Right, like the chip probably costs somewhere between $1 and $5 depending on which one it is, maybe even sub $1.
I mean, I see the one we're looking at, the ESP for $20. That ESP is probably that's probably like $1, $2.
Pretty easily. And are you talking about this one or the
I think this one's a ESP32.
Yep. Oh yes, sorry, it's written on there. Yep. Yeah, and then some other Bluetooth NIC thing. I think it's so expensive. You can get a fully assembled board from JLC, as we were discussing before, for $100. It's like two off, you're spending 200, but it's not the same as this. It's completely custom with all the other things you possibly wanted on it, and you lose your flexibility in a sense. Yeah. But you end up with a tightly integrated product. Is that a good trade?
Right. I think maybe these could take off in like an electronics as code world if you could just instantly swap your little dev thing with all these plugins quickly to the production board. Like if it was so easy to swap, then in a development setting, you would use it, quickly swap to the production, and then go. And that's just ignoring that when you swap to production, there will be a million issues and you'll need 5 revisions.
Well, the beautiful thing about electronics as code is that if you actually capture all the intricacies of whether it's a PCIe 5 bus that you need really serious routing rules for, you can embed those rules in code. You can encode all the bus information. You can include all the intricacies of the chip and its hookup and any discretes necessary to make it run, the configuration that you had it in, all in code. And so that when you switch modes, however you switch modes, whether it's from this physical modularity thing or even just from like a dev board where you have test points everywhere. Right. Into your finished product form, which is now like densified. Right. Either way, you can be confident in it. And I think that's super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see if we got anything else on my list. Oh, Magic Leap. So when all this tariff stuff was going on, I found out Magic Leap is operating in the US in manufacturing and apparently has like this very like full process automation.
Oh my God, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, it's super serious. I think that was a silicon wafer.
Oh my God. Remind me what Magic Leap is.
So Magic Leap, let's see what they're currently making, because back in the day, they were making a small black box that you would put in front of your computer, and it would tell you where your hands are. It looks like... Oh, no. I'm totally wrong. Hold on. So Magic Leap is VR.
Oh, cool.
So maybe we weren't seeing silicon there. Maybe we were seeing like optics
lenses
or something. I definitely had this wrong.
That's cool.
How excited are you about VR? 1 to 10.
Honestly, like a 2. But I love to play with it whenever I see it.
So I was on a plane the other day and somebody took out an Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, I did try one. I won't lie, that made me excited about it. I was so tempted to buy one. It was so much money.
Just for planes, it seems. That seems to be the way to do it. Like this guy had this huge screen up and
strong neck.
I imagine.
And yeah, so he was just there on the plane with like a full work setup.
Yeah, full work setup. And his laptop screen was off. He was typing, then like moving things around.
It's pretty baller.
And it was really annoying because he kept putting his hands in my space to grab things. He would be like, it would look like he's trying to like sample my food and he's just pinching the air.
Reach up your glass, get his fingers wet.
Oh my gosh.
That's incredible. So Magic Leap, they're making VR stuff and I don't know anything about them, but boy, are those some beautiful optics.
Yeah.
Oh, that's magnificent. They're probably doing something funny. I mean, imagine the lens coatings and all sorts of stuff like that to get a good AR experience. Must be so hard. All of that alignment and perfection and the coating thicknesses to get your refractive indices right. Oh my God, that's a tough one.
Yeah, lenses are really crazy because there's this type of lens that Meta, I guess, came up with called a pancake lens. Have you heard of this?
No, not really.
So if you look at a normal lens, it's like a circle and like stuff goes in kind of a circular radial fashion.
Yep.
But then the rub of the circles is screens are almost always built as squares. And so a pancake lens changes the transformation of light to be less spherical, less circular, into more like square to circular. You know, see what I'm saying?
Interesting.
And so you get at the same resolution, you get much better output for the human eye.
Is it like a layered lens or how does that work?
You know, the specifics I don't really understand.
Seve, we're engineers.
Yeah, I know. I think it's shaped. Can you shape glass? I don't know.
Yeah. You grind glass, but you I imagine because they're calling it a pancake. I was imagining there'd be a whole bunch of layers or something.
Maybe
something to look up for next week.
Next time. This is the other thing I found. Have you ever heard of Flipper Zero? So Flipper Zero makes this device that can, what does it do? It intercepts different radio frequencies, I think. It can like scan light. It's like a hacker's multi-tool.
Yeah, it's like a hacker's Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that company, by the way, I think their device got like banned. I don't know if you heard about this.
What?
Yeah, I think Flipper Zero banned. Hold on.
Banned or restricted in several countries. Okay.
Yeah, due to
Canadian government. Oh, Canada.
Friggin' Canada. It's always Canada. Yeah, Amazon banned the sale of Flipper Zero because of these concerns. So it can be used to hack a lot of stuff. I had a friend who was trying to turn on his ceiling lamp or his ceiling fan. He lost the remote, and so he was able to reverse engineer it with the IR capabilities of it. Or maybe he had the remote and he just wanted another. I don't know. Anyway.
Remote duplication.
So they apparently got out of that hardcore business and built this thing called a busy clock, which I just thought was pretty
Beautiful.
cool.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. It's very teenage engineering, isn't it?
It's very teenage engineering feeling, and it's like a Pomodoro timer / I don't know. I just thought this thing was cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I'm basically doing an ad where our audience is the perfect audience to buy some cool electronic device.
What does it do? Is it just an extra display for my computer? Or?
So the problem was in their office, people were interrupting people. When they were like, didn't want to be interrupted. And so there's actually a screen on the front and back of this, and the screen on the front will say busy. So you know when somebody's busy and they don't want to be interrupted. So it's like an extension of that Facebook concept, like, oh, he's plugged in, but a lot more obvious now.
Yeah,
and you even
I
know
like
when
it.
you can contact them.
I like it. We were playing with a similar thing where we just had kind of like a flag you flip up one way or the other.
Yeah. You're in the zone or not. A lot of people use headphones for it, but the thing is I kind of always want to wear my headphones. I don't really want to take them off.
I don't mind being tapped a lot of the time. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, nice.
Flipper Zero, Busy Bar. I guess this is the inside.
Oh, right. This is what you get to see.
What I love about this is it's so hackable, like coming from the Flipper Zero team. Like it's got like API access, web interface, all of this.
Of course it does.
That should just be built into electronics now, you know? Every electronic device should have a web server.
A Linux machine and a web server.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
More Linux.
One of our fellows, Lucy, has been working. Have you ever heard of Meshtastic?
Meshtastic, I have not.
Yeah. So Meshtastic is do you know LoRa?
LoRa. Oh yeah. The protocol for long range.
Yeah, low power, long range. It like the low works both ways. Low power, long range communication. The Meshtastic is atop that, like an open source, decentralized packet switching stuff you can do to message atop that radio transport, basically.
Yeah.
And I think the record I saw out of the Meshtastic devices was about a 250 kilometer communication without any hops. You know, so really like long range, robust network. Lucy started working on it after, I think it was North Carolina. I can't remember which of the Carolinas had a huge storm last year, where she was from. And, you know, it was like communications were out, and it was so clear that like walkie-talkies are great. Is there a more modern equivalent of this? You can communicate with the world. And
you need to get memes. If you're in a disaster. Problem with walkie-talkies is, you can't scroll TikTok or whatever.
They also don't work async. And so if my hands are occupied, I can't hear it. I didn't notice it. Message gone. You know?
Right.
But Lucy had embedded, or she created a Meshtastic node that embeds a Linux SOM capable of running Ubuntu.
Wow.
Tiny little one, draws stuff or power, and has a solar panel the size of this device, which is about the size of a credit card on the back of it. And that's enough to power it continuously. If you leave this thing out in the sun, it'll just keep working and working as a relay.
Wow.
Right. And so you can have your API and eat it too. It's crazy how low power you can get these days.
Yeah. And Meshtastic seems really cool too. Like I hope it's better. So when Zigbee came out, like there wasn't like a good enough standard on top of it. That was my understanding. Like everybody was kind of building their own sort of variants on top of Zigbee. So have you used Meshtastic? I'm really curious about this.
I haven't used it much myself, but I would. Well, I've obviously been playing along as Lucy's been going. The fellowship's been really fun like that.
Can you talk about the Atopile Fellowship? What's that about?
So roughly speaking, we realize that, we're an open source company. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, and there's a lot of cool people, awesome people designing really awesome things. But it can just be like prohibitively expensive to do what you should probably do and just order your boards.
Yeah, $200 feels cheap to a company to get a prototype. To a high school student or even a college student.
Even a professional. Like, we're in Silicon Valley here, where salaries are super high, right? Like you're used to having a little bit of money extra, but it's just not the case for everyone.
Yeah,
and so we've been sponsoring our fellows. So just say like, hey, don't waste your time like hand assembling stuff. Like get it done and design more cool stuff.
Right.
Make more cool things.
Right.
It's sort of the objective of this, and it's been
not
really
helping
fun.
Manufacturing move to America, Matt.
Sort of. I'm trying. I mean, I'm not even American anyway. You guys keep threatening to throw me out every 2 years. So
sorry about that. Yeah, I do apologize for that.
Seve.
It's me outside his door, by the way.
Hey, been fun as always, Seve. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Have a good one.
Oh my gosh.